SMU, Louisville, week 3 of the season, and it might be the most important game of both team seasons, and that's why Dalton and I are here to talk about it here today.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That's right, another crossover episode here on Locked On Podcast Network. It's Locked On SMU and Locked On Louisville. I'm Grayson Singleton, Locked On SMU. He is Dalton Pence from Locked On Louisville. And before we go any further today, our episode is brought to you by KALSHI. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use code Locked On to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. Coming up on the show today, we'll talk Louisville, we'll talk SMU, and we'll also talk about this matchup and why the winner of this one could be in the driver's seat to get to the ACC Championship Game and presumably take on Miami. And Dalton Pence, I say presumably because before we started the show, we both agreed that neither Duke nor Virginia even expected to be in the ACC Championship Game. So who the hell knows what's going to happen? What's going on, my friend?
Oh, not much. Just ready to talk about, in my opinion. I think from hearing what you just had to say, you feel the same way. But this is by far the most important game of the season for the Louisville Cardinals. And whoever wins this game is going to be firmly in that driver's seat if they handle business to get to Charlotte. So I'm interested to preliminarily break this down.
Well, let's go ahead and go, because this time the matchup is going to be in the state of Kentucky after Louisville came to SMU, and a pretty beat-up team at that point in the season last year. SMU got that win pretty easily. But right off the bat, I've been talking to my audience all offseason about the addition of Lincoln Kienholz. And quite frankly, I know nothing about him because he's been in college a couple of years, and we haven't seen him in really any meaningful game action. So what could you tell people actually about the Ohio State transfer quarterback now in his first year with the Cardinals?
This isn't the only thing that matters, but when he committed to Louisville, and even throughout the months following his commitment, I've never seen a fan base hype up a player transferring out of a school more than Ohio State fans have talked about Lincoln Kienholz. It seems like a running joke that I have is that Ohio State fans think that Kienholz is going to lead Louisville to the playoff more than Louisville fans do. So there's got to be some rationale as to why they believe that. And it's not just because he's a locker room guy or a good leader, which he is both, but being a backup at Ohio State is a little bit different than being a backup quarterback at other spots. I mean, when you are a backup to Will Howard, who won a national championship, Julian Sayin, who was a Heisman finalist a season ago, and you go toe-to-toe with Sayin in that battle up through fall camp. I mean, there's something to be said about that. This feels like one of those situations where Brohm is just basing everything on his scouting and the traits that Kienholz has. It is only day one of fall camp that started on Thursday with no pads. It's helmets and shorts, but had some zip on the ball, some drop in the bucket throws, got the dual threat ability as well with his mobility. So, Grayson, it's a huge TBD is what it boils down to. But from all accounts, everyone who knows Lincoln Kienholz just swears that he can be the guy. And I guess there's only one way to find out.
And I talked about that on my episode yesterday, was that, okay, this was the number one player coming out of the state of South Dakota for whatever that's worth. He was a top 150 player when he was coming out of high school. Like, the kid certainly has some talent and the kid certainly can play, but it's one of those things where you look at him and it's like, well, they recruited over you with Julian Sayin, and then Julian Sayin started the job, won the starting job, and then you had to transfer out. So it's that dilemma of, we know you can play, but also Ohio State felt the need to go in a different direction than you after they put so much effort into getting you there in the first place.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the truth of the matter is, yeah, you are loved by that fan base, but the reality is that you didn't start a regular season game there. And yeah, you might have played behind some better quarterbacks, but are you going to be able to lead Louisville to the promised land? Now, thankfully, he's stepping into an offense that he doesn't have to be Superman. He has to be, at the very, very worst, serviceable. And if he can be serviceable, that could be the difference between 10-2 and 8-4, because Louisville has a very favorable schedule, sort of like SMU does.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And that's why this matchup in week 3 is going to be so important, because the winner of that game seems to have a very feasible path the rest of the way through the ACC conference. But we'll get to that later on in the show. Now, you mentioned, I'm glad you went there, that Lincoln Kienholz does not have to be Superman. And this Louisville offense does return a couple of key pieces. Obviously, both Kewan and Isaac Brown in the backfield are back. This Trey Richardson cat on the outside, I really like, but there's no Colin Lacey. There's no Chris Bell. So what does this offense look like going forward with some of those guys that have left? Obviously, you're still returning those 2 running backs, though.
I firmly believe that overall, this is Jeff Brohm's most talented roster he's ever had on paper. It's got to be proven on the field, but I mean, this is the best running backs committee that you've had, and that's saying a lot because you've had some very good ones. But Isaac Brown coming back, he's one of the best running backs in the country. Kewan Brown had almost 800 yards last year as a third-string guy, and when his number was called, he rushed for over 100 yards in multiple spots. The staff is raving about Missouri running back transfer Marquise Davis, who's your third string. So it's a luxury to have there. You went out and rebuilt the offensive line, had a really good portal class. Kienholz at quarterback, Brody Foley at tight end was one of the top tight end transfers in the country. Second in receiving touchdowns, only behind Kenyon Sadiq, who was a pretty good tight end last year for Oregon. Decent first-round pick. But at the tight end position, he had 7. Then wide receiver, Trey Richardson, the guy can just take the top off the defense. I mean, he averaged almost upwards of or close to 20 yards per reception last year in the SEC, 17.5. And, I mean, he got better throughout the season, became Diego Pavia's main target at the end of the year and had 3 of his last 4 performances go for over 100 yards. Lil Wayne McCoy has ACC experience at Florida State. Trayshawn Hurry's due for a breakout season. So I'm talking this offense up a lot, but truthfully, Grayson, the personnel is not the issue. I think it's just a matter of, A, can Brohm sort of clean up some situational play calling? But B, what's Lincoln Kienholz going to do? Because if he's serviceable, your offense is going to be good. But if you want to get to the playoff, he's got to be better than serviceable.
Yeah, no, like at my day job, we were talking about this when it comes to Oklahoma, is that you can have passable quarterback play, but if you want to get to where you want to go, at some point, you may not have to do everything, but at some point, you got to do the thing to get you there from the quarterback. And the thing with Lincoln Kienholz is that I'm sure he can do it, but we just don't know what he is as a quarterback quite yet, just because we haven't seen him. But flipping sides, as we're running out of time in this segment, flipping sides to the defensive side, they do got some pieces on that side of the ball that I really like. Lost a couple of guys from last year, but everybody does. You got the transfer from North Carolina, I believe, at defensive end, if I'm not mistaken.
Tyler Thompson.
Tyler Thompson, yes, beat out SMU at one team that was wanting to go after Tyler Thompson. The Watts kid, I continue to really like as a really bigger DB. That side of the football is going to be pretty interesting for the Cardinals, right?
Yeah, and even though they lost their defensive coordinator, they replaced him with an internal option who had been with the program since even before Brohm. He was the lone staff member that Brohm kept. Mark Ivy's he's now the co-DC that's calling the plays with Steve Ellis, but he's the defensive line coach. And with Mark Ivy, it's all about one word: pressure. He's going to bring some heat off the edge. Louisville's going to blitz more than we've seen them blitz in a probably half decade. And it all starts with the edge guys, right? Clev Lubin is back, one of the best pass rushers, not only in the conference, but probably the country as well. Tyler Thompson was top 10. I saw a stat out there that said that Louisville is returning 3 of the top 16 pass rushers from the ACC a season ago. Clev Lubin, Tyler Thompson, and A.J. Green. You've got Stanquan Clark back, fully healthy. He looked elite in spring ball. Antonio Watts is the Swiss Army knife at that star outside linebacker safety position. The person that I'm most excited about is Cohen Entringer. I mean, the captain of the Iowa Hawkeyes defense, there probably aren't that many accolades that are larger than that. He's going to be starting at strong safety with Tayon Holloway as a projected first-team all-ACC level guy. So, yeah, Grayson, if this defense, who led the ACC last year in fewest yards per game passing, if they don't live up to expectations, it would be a severe disappointment.
And I mean, also taking the football away too. You bring Antonio Watts.
Oh, yeah.
That is a dude that is all around the football. And I look at the SMU weapons, which we'll talk about here just in a couple of minutes. But I look at SMU's weapons, especially the new tight ends that they got. And Theo Mellon-Orstrom is a dude that I think could be a real matchup nightmare for different teams. The Louisville matchup scares me because of Antonio Watts. Like, I think Antonio Watts is a guy who can cover both receivers and tight ends because he moves like a DB, but he's got the size of a linebacker as well. I think he's a really valuable piece of that Louisville team.
Yeah, Antonio he's fantastic. He's super versatile. He's a guy that can really get after it, getting downhill and defending the run. But you saw the interception in the Miami game where he caught the pass basically over his shoulder with his back to the quarterback. He's just a super versatile guy that brings the power and aggressiveness. He retaining Watts because he initially wanted to enter the portal, but he took his name out in January. That was such a large victory that fans just don't talk about enough, because having Antonio at your starting outside linebacker spot, I mean, that's just a huge win, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, coming up next, Louisville fans, get ready, because let's find out about SMU. How does SMU look after an offseason, following a lot of change? We'll talk about that, Dalton and I, on the other side, as this Locked On College crossover continues. But first, let's go ahead and talk about the game as well, because since 1986, the game has been creating classic college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, current student, season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. This year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time. So when you go to the SMU fans, Louisville fans, you guys go back to the games, you know, maybe you got like your polo, you got your pullover, or maybe you have a hat that you already like. I promise you, the game is going to take that over the top, because whether it's going to be a memorable game day, a great tailgate, or a rivalry game as well, you want to look in style, and the game can do just that for you. With hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary offer won't last forever. All right, welcome back to the show. Here is Locked On College Crossover. Grayson Singleton, Locked On SMU. Dalton Pence from Locked On Louisville. Make sure you guys give a subscribe to all of our channels as well. Follow us on social media. Also, he is at dpence_, Gray_Singleton 2 is where you can find me, and on the show's social medias as well. All right, Dalton, I'll turn it over to you, brother. What you want to know about this Mustangs team going into this year?
Yeah, I'll start out here. I think that your everydayers will be delighted to know that I'm one of the people that's higher on SMU than a lot of people. And this has kind of gone back a couple seasons. I've always been a huge fan of Rhett Lashlee. I think that his offense is super high octane, and it's tough to stop, as you've seen them play Louisville. And since SMU's joined the ACC, Miami's the only team that has more conference wins than the Mustangs. And to make it even more impressive, 5 of the 7 losses over the last 2 seasons, 3 points or less. So this SMU team, even if they're losing games, it's very close. So they're super competitive. They're really well coached. But offensively, it starts with Kevin Jennings. Louisville fans know Kevin Jennings, unfortunately, probably all too well, because he's had his way with the Cardinals the past 2 seasons in 2 wins against the Ville. But let's talk about pass catchers, because you got Raphael, from Cal at running back, and I think he's going to be very, very good in this offense. You have a solid offensive line that might have some depth issues, but starting five is going to be good. Pass catchers, you're replacing a good amount. Who are some of the guys that you need to know about as a Louisville fan, but also what's your vibe check on the pass catchers going into this season?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, that they're replacing a lot, because unless you really follow SMU, you're not going to know any of these dudes, because Jordan Hudson, Romello Brinson, Matthew Hibner, RJ Maryland, all gone for SMU. This year, this year, you got a cameo of Jalen Cooper as a true freshman in last season. He's going to be a major, major player this year. Ymir Knight is in his second year with SMU after transferring from James Madison. He's a Delaware product. So 5'8" guy. He's going to be their slot guy, owning the middle of the field. He's going to be just a guy that can keep the sticks moving and really excels at getting open. I expect him to be Kevin Jennings' go-to guy when things get a little bit tough or SMU really needs a conversion. They're going to look that way. The interesting name to know is Yannick Smith, and he is the transfer from East Carolina. First year in the Power 4, but he is a ginormous wide receiver. 6'3", about 210 pounds is Yannick Smith. And he is their most physically imposing player. And from what I've heard, that's going to be a dude. He's going to be your prototypical boundary X that can win physical one-on-ones with individual DBs. He's a good route runner. He's an excellent contested catch guy. And you look at him and you say, okay, well, this is a guy that was second on East Carolina in receiving yards. They had a pretty damn good wide receiver on the other side too. This kid can play, and I think he's ready for ACC football. But even behind them, you've got a cat like a Jalen Hale, a one-time number 7 wide receiver in the class of 2023. Just didn't work for him at Alabama. He suffered just a devastating knee injury in 2024. He is now the healthiest he has been since before that injury. So he might factor in as the 4th wide receiver. Oh, and in case y'all missed it, one of the other wide receivers is Jordan Adams, a 26-year-old who got done playing professional baseball and decided to pivot course and is now playing college football. So the pass catching room, especially at wide receiver, I didn't get into the transfer tight ends, but the pass catching room at wide receiver is going to be something that SMU is very excited about.
Did you say 26 years old?
He is 26 years old. He is older than me.
Who was the tight end for Miami? What was it, 2 years ago in Cam Ward's season? Who's the tight end that was like 25 years old? Is he older than that guy?
Is it like Cam McCormick or something like that?
Yeah, that's it. Because I was like, was he older than McCormick? But anyways, irrelevant. But let's look at the defense, because I love the SMU linebacker core. I think they have one of the best in the ACC. I mean, Alexander Kilgore, Brandon Booker, really solid tandem there, not to mention some of the other guys returning. But notably, SMU rebuilt that front. And they brought in guys like David Chukwuemeka, Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. But I guess it's easier said than done to replace your entire front. And it seems like it could be north of 6 to 7 transfers that are going to be starting in the 11 on the defensive side of the football. What's your main concern on that side? And let's say that if SMU's defense doesn't live up to the hype, it's because of blank.
Okay. So let's go through this. The defensive line, I'll take it a step further than what you did, because you're right. They're replacing a lot. They're replacing 6 defensive linemen from last year. The entire starting 4 graduated, plus 2 defensive ends transferred out, 2 rotational defensive ends transferred out. So they are replacing a ton on that defensive line. David Chukwuemeka, who was somebody that would have generated a lot of excitement, never made it to campus. For some reason, that never really became public as to why, but he never made it to campus. The transfer go ahead.
So he's not on the team.
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No. He is not on the team. Now, they did get a JUCO transfer by the name of Tavion Atkinson, who I think will factor in a lot, either at end or tackle. He's got some versatility there. But you mentioned Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. Good pick. I'll give you another one too. Christian Davis, transfer from Louisiana Tech. He got here at around 335. He is down to about 320 and is moving so much better. They love how he has attacked the weight room, attacked his nutrition, and just an overall excitement for being in the SMU program. So I think he's going to be a really, really good player that factors in, obviously, stopping the run. But I think he's a decent pass rusher from a 3 technique as well. Now, to answer your question, if the SMU defense does not improve and live up to what it could be, it will be because of blank. It will be because their cornerback play did not improve. Their cornerback play was objectively some of the worst in the ACC last year. It was very, very bad. SMU was one of the worst teams defending the pass a year ago, and a lot of it had to do with corner. Now, were all those players put in the best positions? Not necessarily, because Scott Simons, the former defensive coordinator who's now with Dallas Cowboys, has said that, going into the year, there were times where we didn't have a functional 2 deep. They were rotating guys from corner to nickel to safety a bunch in the early part of last year, and it never ironed itself out. This year, you have one corner in Marcellus Barnes, former Syracuse player in his second year with SMU, who is going to lock down one side of the field. They are very excited, as am I, about Marcellus Barnes. On the other side, it will likely be Texas A&M transfer Javon Thomas. Injuries factored into his time at A&M not working out. Just a lot of things didn't work out there. So he's in his final year of eligibility, and he's going to be likely the guy on the other side. And then at nickel, it'll likely be a guy named Jarvis Lee, a transfer from USF. You will be spotlighting him come game week because that is a dude who is all around the football and can really cause some problems. He is good as a blitzer. He is good against the run, and he can obviously cover and take the football away. So he can take it away a myriad of ways too. So that is what they have reloaded at their weakest position on the defense from last year. But if they don't improve, it'll be because that corner play was still suspect.
I know all about Jarvis Lee. I mean, he had 12 tackles for loss last season as a safety slot corner. That's insane what he was able to do. But it is. And the final question I'll ask you, it seems like every year the name of the game for SMU is starting slow. Like 5 of their 7 regular season losses over the past 3 years have happened in either August or September. And this game is the 3rd game of the season. It's on September 19th. So, Grayson, is it a matter of Kevin Jennings has to get going early on? The defense has to not get gashed on the back end of the secondary? Like, what has to happen for the Mustangs to not get off course early on and just hit the ground running, so to speak, right away?
Everything. Just straight up. Because you look at the 2 losses early in the season last year to Baylor and TCU. All of them were different problems. Now, granted, SMU had the Baylor game solely in hand, and then they had some questionable situational play calling down the stretch. The defense could not put pressure on Sawyer Robertson, and he ate SMU secondary up alive. And, there was a lot that factored into that game. The kicking game was atrocious in that game. The defense of the second half was atrocious. The play calling let them down at the end of the game. Like, everything spiraled out of control for that Baylor game. The TCU game, they just never looked like the better team. Again, couldn't stop the pass. Josh Hoover, I think, threw for like 5 touchdowns in that game. And Kevin Jennings made mistakes in that game. So it's been a little bit of everything. But on my show throughout the entire offseason, we've talked about this. SMU does not have room for error because before they get to Louisville, they got to make sure they're all their ducks in a row because they got to go to Tallahassee to take on Florida State to open up the season. So, and that's an ACC game. So it literally is everything. I know this is kind of a cop-out, but the answer is actually everything because their chances to get to the ACC Championship Game depend on it. Their chances to get to the college football playoff depend on them being buttoned up in a sport with no preseason, by the way. They have got to be buttoned up early because of the 2 games they got to play, because otherwise they come out and mess around. Everything that they certainly could accomplish this year completely flies out the window.
Yeah, look, Louisville plays Ole Miss to start the season in Nashville. I understand that all too well. A little bit different because it's not a conference game, and it seems like if you're an ACC team outside of Miami, the best way that you get to the CFP is by winning the conference championship game. Like, that is the clear-cut route. And I think that this game on September 19th, like, I'm not going to go as far as saying the winner is going to get to Charlotte. That I think would be a little bit foolish and too much of a hot take. But whoever wins this game, Grayson, is going to put themselves in a very advantageous spot. And when we come back, it's all about that September 19th matchup in the Ville.
Before season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On KALSHI, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. So, for instance, what if you want to go to KALSHI and say, I'm going to pick the favorite Rams to win the Super Bowl? Well, trading $100 could potentially give you a payout of just south of $600 because at KALSHI, they've got a 16% chance to be the NFL champion this season. On KALSHI, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on KALSHI. Download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 off when you trade $10. KALSHI, KALSHI. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. KALSHI products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, final segment. Locked on SMU, locked on Louisville crossover here. Grayson Singleton, Dalton Pence joining me today, and I'm pretty sure we'll be talking in about a month once we get ready for SMU and Louisville. But man, it seems as if the ACC is setting up to be the race to who is going to challenge Miami in the ACC Championship game. And like you mentioned, the winner of this one will be in the driver's seat to get there. So when you look at how these teams match up, Dalton, where do you see Louisville having an advantage over what you know about SMU?
Well, I mean, I think that the conversation really has to kind of flip-flop. It almost has to be, how can Louisville correct what they haven't been able to do the past couple of years? Like Jeff Brohm and Ron English, now Mark Ivey, really we haven't had an answer for Rhett Lashlee and Kevin Jennings. There have been times where they've been able to sort of slow them down, but Kevin Jennings, that rushing offense, that high up-tempo playing style, it's been something that the Cardinals have struggled with. So from an advantage standpoint, I think that playing at home does help. Like, it doesn't hurt, right? I think that that's, I guess, technically one advantage. Another thing, truthfully, is that you don't really know what to expect from Kienholz. And I think that that can hurt Louisville, because if he's not living up to expectations, that's going to suck. But if he is the guy, you really don't have a lot of film on him. So Louisville can disguise a lot. Now, you're going to see a lot in the Ole Miss game, but coaches don't always show everything right away. So there's going to be, new aspects of this offense come week 3 when the Mustangs come to town. So it's got to be from like a gamesmanship standpoint, because I think these rosters are very similar. They went to the portal to fill their needs. They got solid players coming back. I think that if Kienholz can throw the ball, your advantage is in the passing game, because Richardson can beat any secondary out there if you can get him that football. So that's kind of where we're at. But Grayson, you're on the road, second time in 3 weeks. Tallahassee, we'll see how that atmosphere is going to be. The Louisville game's at 3:30. It's probably going to be packed, but it's not one of like the marquee home field advantages in the sport. What's the vibe check on that? How do you feel about Kevin Jennings coming to Louisville? Obviously, it's going to be a marquee matchup for both teams.
You know, I haven't said it in these terms on my show yet, but I'll say it now. Fatigue is the thing I think of, because you look at it, SMU starts the season on Labor Day. They play on Labor Day night. And between Florida State, the home opener against UC Davis, and then Louisville, they're playing 3 games in 12 days. That's a hell of a way to start a season. So now you're going on the road for the second time in 3 weeks. Both of those road games are conference games. So you kind of have to worry about health and fatigue at that point. But to your point, I still feel good about this one thing. Rhett Lashlee has seemed to be a step ahead of Jeff Brohm in their individual matchups. And I don't take a whole lot from the defensive performance that SMU put on Louisville last year, because you were kind of facing the corpse of Louisville right now at that point. And then also it was a different defensive coordinator. So there's not a whole lot I take from that defensively, but offensively, you're right. Louisville hasn't been able to figure this thing out. And if SMU is healthy, if they're staying on top of their recovery at the back end of a stretch like that, I do like Kevin Jennings against this defense. Now, they've got some players. He's going to have to keep the ball out of harm's way, which has not been his greatest strengths so far in his career. I think it's something that he does improve upon this year. But you talk about a guy like Trey Richardson that can bust behind any defense. SMU's got some of those players as well. Once they want to loosen it up, the RPO scheme has been kind of doing its thing, and then they want to try to take the top off the defense. Situationally, they were pretty decent at that last year, and I expect them to try to do it again. But for me, the question is, can Jeff Brohm and the defensive staff of Louisville figure out this Rhett Lashlee offense? Because through 2 years, the answer has been a definitive no.
That's very true. I think that, last year was everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. You started a redshirt freshman in his very first start. Miller Moss was hurt. Louisville was on a slide. They kind of the air had been let out of the balloon.
Had they kind of checked out by that point?
Yeah, they had. Yeah. That's a better way to put it. I mean, but then again, they got back up for the Kentucky game the next week and, played up to it in the rivalry game. But I think that this game is going to be more like 2024, where it was SMU early. Louisville got up off the mat. They threw some punches, and they just went back and forth. And it got to the point that the team with the ball at the end of the game won the game, right? The team with the last chance to score won the game. And I could see it being that way again. I think that Louisville's offense won't be as good as it was in 2024. But Louisville's defense was not nearly what it was last year. So I think that the defense will be better. It's going to be an ultimate chess match. And I'm super excited and intrigued to see how Brohm and company approach this, because Jeff Brom's a smart guy. He knows that things haven't gone well against SMU the past 2 years. There's going to have to be some attention to detail in that game to say, hey, look, this didn't go well the past 2 years. Got to change it up. And, Lashlee's going to make those adjustments too. So there's a reason why we are looking at both of these teams as the eventual opponent to Miami in the conference championship game. That's because they're very well coached. They're very talented rosters, and they're two very good teams in the ACC. And I'm glad to get the opportunity to talk through this game with you more than once, because I'm sure that we'll have a crossover show during that game week.
We're running out of time, but I'll say this one last thing. SMU was good against the run last year. Louisville obviously is excellent running the football. I think that's the matchup as it stands right now on August 7th. That's the matchup I'm looking at right now and saying, if Louisville can run the football and get Lincoln Kienholz kind of settled in, that can bode well for the Cardinals in that game, especially at home.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing that's getting overlooked is Lincoln Kienholz. I guess my dog's just not a huge fan of me hyping up SMU.
I was about to say the dogs are hungry, man.
He's been so good during this recording. He hasn't barked once, and now it's like, okay, well, you're getting to the end, so let's bark. But no, I think that you're right. But a lot of it's going to depend on Kienholz's mobility too and how he's going to be utilized. Because in a pro offense, usually it's about extending plays and drives with your legs. But is there going to be more of concerted effort and a design to get him in those RPO situations where he can pull it away and tuck it and run? So that's going to be pretty interesting to see what that dynamic looks like, because if you ask Louisville fans, again, it's a huge TBD, as I mentioned.
Yeah. All right, Dalton Pence, appreciate you, man. It should be fun. We'll tap in about a month or so. We'll talk about this game, brother.
Sounds good. Glad that we got the opportunity, man.
Absolutely. All right, that'll do it for our crossover episode. Locked on SMU, Locked on Louisville here today. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network as well. For those of you on video, we'll send you to our 24/7 national Locked On podcast network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On College Basketball. For Dalton Pence, I'm Grayson Singleton. We'll see all of you guys next week. Take it easy, everybody.